Boker Tov, Shavua Tov, Chodesh Tov. Today's daf is Daf Hay and Gitin. We learn for Aliyas Neshama of the Zayda David ben Pesach, whose yahrzeit is today, B'Chodesh Sivan. We'll start today from Toshma, about 20 lines down on Daf Hayomi where we left off. Toshma. We're trying to bring a proof to either Rabbah or, as we'll see, we're asking mostly kashas on Rabbah, who said that the reason why the aid has to say, the aid who brings the has to say the funny nechtam is because of lishma, because we're concerned that the get may not be lishma. And now we've seen, we're going to see in today's Gemara also, but we saw the reset it on Daf Gimel ben Aleph, that not simply like Rashi, because we're afraid it's not really lishma. Most people write lishma. The concern is maybe the Baal will protest and he will contest the get, saying that it wasn't written properly, that he maybe found it in the garbage or something like that. So Rabbah says the reason is because of Lishma, and Rabbah says the reason is consumed l'kaimo. So here we're going to try to disprove Rabbah. Again, Toshma. The Boimene Shmuel Merafuna, he asked this question. Shnayim Sheviu get. Two people brought a get. Two people should not one shliach, but two people brought Misyam. Tzrichen Shem Fanei Nechtem, or Ein Tzrichen. Do they have to say, we know you made a takana by where you have one aid, one shliach rather, one shliach brings a get, he has to say Fanei Nechtem. What happens if you have two? If you have two aidim, two shlichim rather, again, two shlichim bring it. Do they have to say or not? Do they have to say Fanei Nechtem or not? Amrle, so Rafuna answered him, Ein Tzrichen. They don't have to. Why? Ma'ili Amr Fanei Girsha. Let's say two people come and say, yes, we give testimony, we testify that we saw Reuben give the get to Leah. He divorced her improperly in court in front of two people, whatever. We saw it. Isn't that good? Wouldn't they believe? So if two people bring a get and say, and they're as shlichim and they're giving the get, of course that should be good enough. They don't have to say b'fanei nechtem. If they would come and say she was divorced, that would be good enough. So you see over here, that makes sense only if the reason is because Adam Tzum L'Kaimo. In other words, what's the reason why two people would not have to say b'fanei nechtem? Because they're here. You have two guys. If they say, they could say she's divorced, they could say she's whatever if they say she's divorced, she's divorced. So if they say, here's your get, that's the same thing, because they're around to say they're the Adam who could be Makayim the get, who can confirm the get, the signatures, whether they're signed on it or somebody else is signed on it, they could confirm the signatures. So if they would be believed themselves just to say she's divorced, certainly they're believed to say here's your get, and that's good enough. You wouldn't need more. That's only good, but according to Rav, who says the reason is because someone's saying L'kaima, but according to Rav, who says reason of the Shema, how does that solve it? The main issue is, has it been written Lishma? And just two people coming along, they said it was just one person or two people. How does that show Lishma? Unless the reason is two people is better than one person if the reason is Adam Mitzrayim L'kaimo. So here you have the two Adam who are Mitzrayim L'kaimo. You don't have to be looking for other Adam. But if the reason is Gav Lishma, why wouldn't you have to say B'fanei Nechtem even if it's two people? So it's a proof against Rabbah. This is speaking about when they were, the original takana was when they were not experts and they didn't have to be, they weren't Bakim Lishma. The people did not know in general that the shtar could be written Shema. They thought you could use a boilerplate, or if somebody else's get would be good for you too. They didn't know that it had to be written the Shema. That was originally, but this is speaking about this case here where Shmuel asked Rav Huna, speaking about after people were more learned and they knew that it had to be written Shema. So the Gemara says, so if that's the case, what was the question? If two people bring a get, do they have to say b'fanei nechtem? So we're saying, according to Rabbah, that's concerned Lishma, you don't have to worry about Lishma over here, because this is speaking about after everybody was Lishma, after they learned. So if that's the case, what's the difference if it's two people or one person? If one person would come and bring the get, also you shouldn't have to say b'fanei nechtem kizlach shalom. The Gemara says, well, if it's one person, maybe, yes, now they're more learned, but eventually there were different periods of time when people were more learned, less learned. So even though they're more learned now, maybe things will go back and deteriorate and be corrupted the way they were originally, where they didn't know. So therefore, by one person, we make Xer and say, yeah, you still have to say b'fanei nechtem, even though they're Baki Lishma now, but maybe we'll get to a stage where they won't be Baki, so we want to put that rule into effect. So again, if the concern is even if two people come, that helps you for being Mekayim L'shtar, because they could testify. But how does that help for Lishma? How does that help Lishma? Again, you have to say b'fanei nechtem. So What's the reason? So if it's lishma, so you'll ask them, was it written lishma? And they'll say that it was written lishma. Again, the concern is maybe the husband will contest it and say it wasn't lishma. But if you have two people saying it was lishma, it's okay. So by two people, you should also have to say lishma. Why do you say that it's speaking lachar shalom do? And one person has to say it even lachar shalom do because Shem Yachzor Avukukulu. Two people also. The answer is trade. Two people to bring get. Normally, you send one shliach. Why would you send two shliachim? That's not normal. And milso shliach, something which is abnormal. Milso shliach goes over, but didn't make a gzeira there. The Gemara says va'isha lo shlicha. It's not normal, at least in those days, to use a woman as a shliach for a get. Utnam ilarisha atzma would be a get. She can bring her own get. Not only a woman, but this woman who's being divorced can bring her own get. She can bring her own get. You might say, isn't she already divorced if she's holding the get? So he mentioned, no. Speaking where the husband said, bring this get to the court, let's say in Yerushalayim, and when you get there, give them the get, say and then let them assign a shliach to give it to you. At that point, you'll be divorced. The point is, she can bring her own get, and she has to say, so the point is, though, that's also misla shchicha. Shouldn't be goes there. The husband, the bezdin acts as a secondary shliach. In other words, the husband said, take this get to the court and give it to the court and say b'fanech fanei nechtab and have the court assign another shliach, a second or a third shliach, and they will give it to you. You can do that. One shliach can make another shliach. He says, especially if he assigned it that way, he told them up front. But the point is, it's a milslo shchicha. So why should she have to say? If you say by milslo shchicha, you don't. We're not gozer the gzeira that you have to say fanech fanei. So a woman is also milslo shchicha. Answer shlo tachluk mashich. You don't want to make difference between one shlichus and another shliach. So yochi bal nami. So if that's the case, the husband also should have to say b'fanech. He himself comes and gives the get. Alam Tana, why do we learn who atzma should he get if he brought a get? Ain't it lam fanech fanei nechtav? He doesn't say fanech nechtav. Why? So why shouldn't he have to say also shalot tachlok? You shouldn't make any difference between one shliach and another. Gemara says time ma'am rabban and tzach shalot v'fanei dilma osi balu mara pasale. Again, here you see from the Gemara that it's not something like Rashi said on Daf Beis and Beis that we're afraid the get wasn't written lishma. We're afraid that it'll be contested and he'll say that it wasn't written lishma. Time ma'am rabban because maybe the husband will come and he'll contest it. If he's holding it in his hand and giving it to her, he's going to protest. He's going to contest and say maybe it's no good. He's bringing it to her. If it's no good, throw it out and don't give it to her. So that you can't. So there, the husband doesn't say fanech nothing, but an individual would. So again, here this sort of begs a question. So we said two people bring a get; they don't have to say fanech, even according to Rabbah. Why? Because we're speaking about lachar shalom do, and it's a mosla shchicha that they did. So a woman's also shchicha. So he said shalot tachlok begitin, shalot tachlok b'shlichas, one shlich, another shlich. So why is it different if two people bring it? By two people bring it, you should also say shalot tachlok b'shlichas, and they should have to say panei neftam. So you could say, okay, maybe shalot tachlok b'shlichas of one person, but that's not such as far. Or Sameach says two people still are better because two people can confirm it, whereas one person cannot. And according to this, it comes out, let's say the two people were two women who couldn't confirm it because they're not proper edus, then they would have to say b'fanei necham. So a little bit dochek, but still, this is that's how we're trying to defend Rabbah. Another proof, Tashma. We're right before the wide lines in the Gemara. Tashma, maybe get Medina but also Allah. Man brought a get, and he gave her, Shliach brought a get from overseas, came to Eretz Yisrael, and he gave it to her. He didn't say it. He didn't say it to Kancham. In the sky, b'chosma kosher. Oh, well, okay, if you didn't say it, you could be, at least you can confirm it with the kosher. Imlav, if you can't confirm it, it's possible. So what do you see? You see, the reason you say is not lahachmer to make it easier for her. What do you mean? That in case it gets contested, you could be mekayim it. So the Gemara is like this: if you didn't say let's say you didn't follow the rules, you didn't say fanech fanei neftam. If you can confirm it with the signatures, then it's okay. If not, it's puzzle. So why? Because the reason say fanei neftam is to make it easier, not to make it harder on her, but to make it easier. So in case it gets protested, you say, well, we have two Eidim who are mekayim it already. So the Rav and according to Rav, this is good. The reason is because mekayim. The reason you say fanei neftam is because you need to be mekayim with the Eidim, and the Eidim aren't here because they're overseas. But the Rabba Kasha, according to Rabba, how does that solve it? How do you say you can Mekayim the star with the Chosma of its kosher? What about the issue of Bekias? That hasn't been resolved. Well, again, okay, we're speaking about after the Bekias wasn't an issue anymore. We're speaking about later on in a later period of time when they were Bekiyim. So Rabba did not at that point. Rabba didn't say his reasoning of Bekiyim Lishma because that didn't apply anymore. But he still held of Rabba, like we saw yesterday, that Rabba is the Rabba. He still holds his reasoning. What kind of an answer is that? You still have to say maybe later on there'll be a later period of time when they'll forget about the Bekiyim Lishma, and you still have to do that too. So how do you say if you can kind with the star with the chosm know the signatures? So then it's kosher. What about the issue of Bekiyim Lishma? And even if they're Bekiyim now, but we said Xer Shem Yachshav Kukulo, and they won't Bekiyim in the future. So the Gemara says, no, this is speaking about a special case. This is speaking about Kshenisas. She got remarried based on that get. He gave her the get. He didn't say b'fanei nechtam. And he said, if you can mekayim with the chasimus, it's kosher. If not, it's possible. So let's say you're mekayim with the chasimus. But what about the issue of Bekiyim Lishma? So speaking about when she got married already. When she got married already, we're not going to say, well, because Xer, you didn't say b'fanei nechtam, that she has to leave the second marriage. She got married already, so we're not. The Rabbana made Xer. You should say b'fanei nechtam, so you shouldn't have to get into problems in case it gets contested. But if she got married already, you're not going to force her out of the marriage because of that. But if that's the reason, why did you say the Brisa said if you didn't say why? Why is it okay if you can kind the star? Because we only did it for her benefit. We're not making a chumrah that you have to make it more difficult to get divorced. We're making it easier for us so that in case it was contested, we'll say it was confirmed. But that's not the reason. The reason why we say that if you can kind with the star, it's kosher and that's good enough is because she got married already. We said the reason why you don't have to do b'fanei nechtam, and we're not standing on that rule, is because she got married already, not because of the chumrah the kula. And like Rashi points out, that's because she got married. If she wouldn't get married, then we would say even though you can mekayim it, you would have to say it again, otherwise you couldn't get married. And we wouldn't allow her to get remarried. Which is a chumrah. We're saying you can't get married based on that. So what do you mean? It's only a kula, it's not a chumrah. The reason why you're saying over here why we allow her to go on with the life without the b'fanei nechtam is because she's remarried already. That's the reason, not because of kula and chumrah. So the Gemara says, no, this is what it means. Maybe you want to say what? Maybe we should be machmer and she should leave. She got married based on that get, even though you didn't say b'fanei nechtam. But maybe we should be machmer and say, okay, listen, she should leave that marriage and redo the process, go through the get again, and she can't get married to the second guy again until she gets a proper divorce with b'fanei nechtam. In other words, we don't say b'fanei nechtam in this case and say that she must leave the marriage. We don't want to be that chumrah. We don't say. Says Rashi 6 lines from the bottom of the page in Rashi. Lo benisas kamar. The lo mafkin lo. We don't. V'achik kamar. Havelo tzachol b'fanei nechtam lahachmer lo tzia. We don't say you have to say b'fanei nechtam be machmer and force her out of her second marriage. Lo tzia achishnisas. The lo tem lahachmer lo tzia. We're not going that far. Elahakol. It's to make it easier for her in the future. But so when we say over here havelo, she got married already. She got married, and the reason why we don't say b'fanei nechtam is since she got married already, we're not going to be machmer on her and say, if you didn't get married, if you didn't say b'fanei nechtam, you must leave the second marriage. No, we're not going to be machmer that far. The reason is to make originally and say you have to say b'fanei nechtam before she got remarried, and the reason is that she shouldn't need Adam later on in case it gets contested. Time am I, as the Gemara says, time I demasi bal mahar pasle. The reason why we are mako on her, we're mako. We say originally you should say b'fanei nechtam as a kula, as a benefit for the woman. Why? Because since the husband might come and contest it later on, saying that it was forged or that it was written in the Shema according to Rabbah, right? So time am I demasi bal mahar pasle. But if she got married or hashta balo kamar, if the husband hasn't yet protested or contested it, we're going to contest it when she's remarried already. We're not going to go that far, and therefore it's a kula if she didn't get married yet. If she didn't get married yet, we'll say, if she didn't get married yet, we'll say that you have to say b'fanei nachdam before you can get remarried. But if you can kind the shtar with a chosma, that's good enough. La'achar shalamdu, right? That's also a reason to say it even after shalamdu with the bikiyas, because maybe she kulo. But if she got married, we're not going to be that machmer. So this case is being where she got married. But if she didn't get married, and a chanami, you would say you have to go back and get divorced again, or come back and force the shliach to say b'fanei nechtam, and that's a kula for her. So this machlok between Rav and Rava, and we said on yesterday's stuff that Rav is really moted to Rava's reasoning also. Why? Because we said even from East Berlin to West Berlin, right, where we said it there, Shemaktin says that. Now, even in Eretz Yisrael, let's say you had two cities in Eretz Yisrael, we're like East Berlin and West Berlin, you can't go from one to another. So he said over there, you have to say b'fanei nechtam. Why? According to Rava, they're all baki, and the answer is Rava also holds of Rava, that you have to have nisim l'kam. He holds of both reasons, and we're just trying to resolve these cases that we said here in Hayam and Aleph. It's mashma that the only thing you have to worry about is meskayim b'chosvav, is the shtar with the signatures, not lishma. And we said it's speaking after they if you didn't say b'fanei nechtam, it's speaking about after shalamdu. But still, there's a gzeira. If it's one person, you should say b'fanei nechtam. But if two people, we don't have that gzeira. Or if she got remarried already, you don't have that gzeira. Now the Gemara says 3 lines from the top of Hayam Beis. But look at Rav Meir Shapiro. This machlok between Rav and Rava is the reason why you say b'fanei nechtam. Is it basically because of the Shema, or is it because of Mitzvah L'Kaimo? Even though we said that Rava also holds of Rava's reasoning, but is this basic reasoning because of the Shema or because of Mitzvah L'Kaimo? So the Gemara now says this machlokas Rav and Rava is the same as the machlokas Rabbi Yochanan and Shub and Levi. Normally, if it's a Tanoim, you don't say that's a question. How can a Maram argue in the same machlokas as machlokas Tanam? Rabbi Yochanan wasn't a Tanoim, Shub and Levi apparently wasn't either, weren't considered Tanoim, and therefore we're saying that Rav and Rava argue in the same machlokas Rabbi Yochanan and Shub and Levi. Chadam, one of them says which one says what? So which one says which? So the Gemara says to Sam, let's prove to Rabbi Shub and Levi. He's the one who holds like Rabbah, that the reason became Lishma. How do we see that? Through Rabbi Shimon bar Abba, this rabbi Shimon bar Abba, I see get like we brought a get for Rabbi Shimon like Amalei. Do we have to say fanech or not? Apparently he brought it by himself. Amalei lo tzrichas. You don't have to say it. Lo Amal b'dos Hashan. The only time we said fanech was in the earlier generations. Shem became Lishma. They weren't as learned, and they didn't know that the get has to be written for the purpose, specifically for the intention of divorcing this Reuven from this Leah. Avodah Sachranim in the later generations became Lishma. Lo, you don't have to. Okay, so that's what he said about the early generations. But the fact is, he said, when did you have to say fanech dechter? Only when they weren't became Lishma. So the reason you say it is because Lishma to time. So that's a proof. And that's a proof that Shub and Levi is the one who says, like Rabbah, that the reason is because of Lishma. Says the Gemara of Tizbra. Rashi says either you take out for Tizbra or the Kash is not really on the proof. That is definitely proof that Rabbi Shimon Levi is the one who said Lishma. But the question is it really true that this Rabbi Shimon bar Abba brought a get by himself at Tizbra? The Rabbah Islay the Rabbah. Even Rabbah holds that you need Mitzvah L'Kaimo. So even if this was, he says, oh, you don't have to write, you don't have to say Fanech Fanei Nechtav for Lishma, because today they're Lishma already. Today it's a later generation of Lishma. He doesn't give the business about Lach Shegazru. Shimon Levi says, no, they became Lishma. You don't have to say it because of that, but you have to say it because of Mitzvah L'Kaimo. Rabbah also holds of Rabbah, but Rabbah is like the Rabbah. What about the idea that it can go back? You know, today they're knowledgeable, tomorrow they won't be knowledgeable, different generations. So you should still have to say because of Lishma. Ella, Rav Shimon bar Abba in a Shachmin. The truth is, Rav Shimon bar Abba, who brought this get, he wasn't alone. He had another person with him. It was 2 people, and we said 2 people. There's a davar she'eno ragil. It's a davar she'eno mitzuya. It's what? What's the lashon? It's a davar lo shchicha. There's lo shchicha lo goes rabbanan. So why doesn't it say Rav Shimon bar Abba and another person? If you said Rav Shimon bar Abba brought this get, sounds like he brought it by himself. No, he didn't bring it by himself. Rav Shimon bar Abba in a shachmin, he had another person there too with him. He had another shliach. But the reason it wasn't mentioned, we shouldn't be called Rav Shimon, because we want to mention Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon is the main person, so we don't want to we wanted to, compared to the Reb Shimon bar Abba, the other person was like a non-entity, but he was an aid. He was a shliach. So therefore, there were really two people there. Two people. So therefore, there was no concern about Mitsuyin L'Kaimo. The concern was only Lishma. And Shubal Levi said, well, in these days, Lishma is not a concern. And therefore, you didn't have to say it, right? And Shem Yachdav Kukulo, so because there were two people, the concern of Shem Yachdav Kukulo isn't there. Why? Because it's a Masla Shchicha. And as far as Mitsuyin L'Kaimo, that's not a problem because there were two people there. So therefore, you have Mitsuyin L'Kaimo and Shem Yachdav Kukulo, and therefore there wouldn't be Lishma. It's not a concern because it's a Masla Shchicha, and therefore the rabbi's Gzeira b'fanei Nechtam was non-applicable. Again, Minat Torah, if Reuben gives a get to Leah in front of two valid witnesses, that's all you need. According to Blazer, you don't even have to have Adam written on the star. According to Rav Meir, you have to have Adam written on the star, but it could be that even Rav Meir will be motive if he was in front of two Adam, that even Rav Meir will always Adam Simakai, but you still have to have it in front of two people. So say most Rishon, everybody agrees it has to be in front of two people. It's rare. Some Rishon say that even according to Blazer, if you had two people signed on it, there weren't people there, that could be good enough too. But almost everybody says that it has to be given in front of two witnesses. The b'fanei nechtam is something that the rabbis added on. Again, like we said, to make it a kula for her, so that in case it's contested later on, so you already confirmed that it's whether it's contested because of lishma or contested because it's forged. Either way, you have a confirmation by saying b'fanei nechtam. Now, we've been talking about the shliach. The shliach, we said, could be any valid shliach. Could even be a woman. Could even be the woman herself, the one who's getting divorced. That's just a shliach. But when you give it to the woman, when the woman receives the get, in front of how many people should be there? So we said you have to have two people at least, right? You have to have two Adam. But do you maybe need more? We had this machlokas before. We mentioned before back at the Gimel. In front of how many people should the get be given? Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Chanina is machlokas. Chadam fnei shnayim. One says in front of two people. Two people is good enough. All you need is two people to validate it, like Rabbi Lazar, who says Adam Masira Karti. That's good enough. The Chadam, and if it's contested, you got two people. The Chadam or fnei shlosha. One says no, it's in front of three. Why? Three means like a bezdin. In case it gets contested, you want a bezdin to confirm it. To Stein, so let's prove Rabbi Yochanan Dam fnei sham. Let's prove Rabbi Yochanan is the one who says all you need is two. The Rabbin bar Rav Chisda, I see get like Rabbi Yochanan. He brought a get before Rabbi Yochanan. But Amalei Zilavli Bafi Trey. Rabbi Yochanan said, give it to him in front of two people. They and tell them Rabbi Yochanan explained to the shliach, to this Rabbin bar Rav Chisda, brought a get, and he told him they brought for Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, okay, give it to him in front of two people. To time, so that's a proof that Rabbi Yochanan is the one who said you give it to him in front of two, not in front of three. This is the machlokas. Maybe this is the machlokas. The madam of Neishan, one who says in front of two, the only concern is B'kiyam Lishma. So if you give it in front of two people, that's good enough. Two people are Adam that it took place, and you also have B'kiyam Lishma. And the reason that's why you say B'fanei Nechtam. There's nothing to do with confirming it. It's because B'kiyam Lishma. The reason because of and if it gets contested, here you have three people can act as a court because the confirmation has to take place in front of a court. So that's what he says over here. Rashi says, if you hold two people, it's good enough. Two are going to we're not going to listen to him because he did it in front of two people. But if you hold Adam Sim since you need to Mekayim it, in front of three people, you need a bezdin of three. There's more of a Tizbra. Number one, how can you say that Rabbi Yochanan says it's good enough in front of two? Before we just had a machlokas above, Rabbi Shuba Levi and Rabbi Yochanan. One says it's because of Lishma, one says Mitsuyin L'Kaimo. And we said Rabbi Shuba Levi is the one who says because it became Lishma. That means Rabbi Yochanan holds it's Mitsuyin L'Kaimo. So you need Mitsuyin L'Kaimo. So he should be the one who says that you need three. So Rabbi Shuba Levi, Rabbi Yochanan Mitsuyin L'Kaimo. If, how can you say you give it in front of two people? If it gets contested, you want three people there to act as a bezdin. Again, you need Adam to confirm it in front of three. So here you should have three. But obviously Rava. Even if you hold because it became the Shema, Rava also holds of Rava that you need Mitsuyin L'Kaimo. So you should always need three people there. Why? In case it gets contested, so you have a court of three. Everybody agrees with Mitsuyin L'Kaimo. Like we said, Rava holds of Rava. And Rabbi Yochanan also holds of that. We mentioned this the other day based on Moshe's kasha. His question about can a shliach become an aid? Yes. The Gemara in Kedushim and Gimel discusses that and says over there, there's some machlokas. We come out that shliach could be an aid, but could the aid become a dayan? Can a witness also become a judge? The reason he says you give in front of two, yeah, you need lishma and you need mitzvah kaimo. The reason you give in front of two is because he owes not only can a shliach become an aid, but the aid become a dayan. So therefore, if the shliach comes in and gives her the get in front of two people, and then it gets contested, well, the shliach himself can become a judge because the shliach can be an aid and the aid can be a dayan. So there it won't be a problem. So again, so you've got three. The shliach can become an aid. The aid nasadayin. Shliach can be a witness, but he can't become a dayan. The only issue is can an aid become a dayan is a shaila like by kiddush chodesh, which is a doraisa. Today's Rosh Chodesh. If you have kiddush chodesh, aidim are coming to testify with the new moon. The aid cannot also be a dayan. Right? The aid who saw the new moon can't become a dayan. That's by the Raisa, but by the Rabban, aid could become a dayan. Here's machlokas. Mar Savakim the Ishak Shev Lavis get. Since a woman can bring the get, a woman can bring the get, right? She can't be an aid because she could bring the get. Sin of the Maisila is a woman might bring the get. The Samchila, and they'll rely on her, in case you need a court because it gets contested. They'll rely on her, and you can't rely on a woman. She can't become a judge. She can't be an aid, she can't become an aid or a proper aid or a judge. The Edach, the one who holds no, and therefore you need three people, give it in front of three people. So in case it gets contested, you have three regular aidim, or regular to be shoftim also. They're aidim to the story. They're aidim to what took place, and they could also be judges, right? So everybody holds that aid nasadayin over here. The Edach, the one who says no, that two is good enough. People know that a woman can't become a judge. Well, sometimes they won't rely on her, and therefore, even if you have brought it in front of two, you have two kosher aidim. If you need a besan of three, they'll have to get a third person there to act at it. They won't rely on her. So, yeah, that's a raisa. She can't be an aid. She certainly can't be a judge. Tanya kavasa Rabbi Yochanan, right? That would be like in Moshe Rabbeinu's time. Tanya kavasa Rabbi Yochanan, raisa like Rabbi Yochanan. Maybe get near same love. Belom fanech fanei Yosef avlad bam Rav Meir. Rav Meir says that he is the most machmer because Rav says that if you bring a get from overseas and you didn't say b'fanech fanech. Again, I mentioned before that the raisa you don't need to say that. It's only Rabbanan. He says Yotzi, if she got remarried based on that get, if she got remarried, the kid would be a mamzer from the second marriage, and he has to get rid of her. He has to divorce her. That's not, in other words, this Yotzi means from the second husband. The second husband married her. She was still a married woman. She was still considered married to the first husband. That's Rav Meir Shapiro. Chum ain't a vlad mamzer. Chum say it's not a mamzer. Case of what should you do now? Case of what should you do if you didn't say fanech? You'd let him take it back. You'd let him take the get back from her. But asked me no, and give it again. B'fnei shayim in front of two people. V'yom fanech fanei nechtem. So here you see a proof that Rabbi Yochanan is the one who says a proof to Rabbi Yochanan that all you need is two. In other words, we said before, Enacham Rabbi Yochanan holds that the reason is because the Imsun L'Kaimo. And so what about if you're Imsun L'Kaimo, two people is good enough to testify? The question is for a court. So that was a different shaila. Rabbi Yochanan says two is good enough, and if you need a court, you'll get a third person. The other sheets have said no, you have three people because maybe a woman will bring it, she's not good enough, and they'll make a mistake, and they'll think that they won't know that the aid can become a dayan, etc., etc. They won't know all these halachas, and they won't prepare for a third person. Whereas Rabbi Yochanan says you get a third person anyway. You don't have to worry about relying on a woman. They won't rely on a woman anyway. But he says that Isha made a yadi below something that they won't rely on her, but and therefore they'll prepare a third person there. But the other sheet says no, you need three people because maybe a woman will bring it. Fine, but Rabbi Yochanan says you can give in front of two. So here again, here's the proof. The proof for Rabbi Yochanan: if you bring a get from overseas, Rav Meir's very. If you didn't say fanech and she got married based on that, kid's a mamzer. Okay, Chum say no, the kid's not a mamzer anyway because it's only an issur d'Rabbanan. But what you should do anyway to get around the problem is take it back and give it to her again. Give it to her in front of two people again. In other words, even if she got remarried based on that, Midaraisa, it's good enough. And Rabbanan, you should say B'fanei Nechbanei Nechtam. Rav Meir says, Rav Meir says, just because he didn't follow the rules of the Chum, he didn't say those words B'fanei Nechtam because of Mamzer. Ain't Rav Meir holds Amar Amnun Mishmei Deula. Omar Meir used to say, Gitin, I think it's the Kedushin also, but by Gitin, he says for sure, if you change the formula, like the coin, if you change the formula that Chum said how to do things, goes to mamzer. In other words, kids consider a mamzer, at least it's a mamzer rabbanon, but he also, or you could say that your Mekadesh and Kedushin and Gitin is only al das Chacham, and the Chum say it's no good. Maybe even the Raisa would be a mamzer. The kids a mamzer, that's Rav Meir Shita. But in any case, the proof to Rabbi Yochanan is from the Chacham Shita. It said, give it in front of two. If you gave it to him Nasla, you didn't say B'fanei Nechtam. Okay, so redo it and give it to her in front of two. So you see two is good enough. Bar Hedya, so you have this machlok between Rabbi Yochanan and Rav Chanina. It's Rav Chanina, Rabbi Yochanan Chanina, right? It says in front of two, in front of three. But basically, everybody holds it's because of Edom. You should have Edom Suyim L'Kaimo. I mean, you have to give it in front of two anyway. So it should be a good get. It's not kosher according to Rav Lezer unless Edom Suyim. It's got to be called of a Shaber and Pachat Mishnayim. You need two people. But the one that says you need three is so you should have three people handy as a court in case it's contested. Barhedia, Boila Seigeta, Barhedia wanted to be a shlich for a get. Also, in other words, in most cities, there's a specialist who knows Gittin. A Rav could be a rabbi, but if he's not osik with Gittin, he shouldn't be the one to be osik Gittin. He has to know all the rules. So he came before Rav Achi, who was a specialist in Gittin. So he asked him, what do I have to do to be a proper shlich? You have to stand there when they write each and every letter. Be a proper shlich. You got to watch every letter that's being written. Also, Rav Vasi said no. I mean, you don't have to watch every letter. Maybe you'll be machmer and say, I can't be a shlich unless I saw every letter written properly. So you're going to spread rumors and say that other people who didn't do that, their Gittin is no good. Not a good idea. Rav Chanam, I see Gita, Pagav Kamei, half the Git was written in front of him. Pagav, half wasn't written in front of him. Rav Blazer came from Blazer, that is that good enough? Even if only one line was written in the Shema, you don't even need that. In other words, as long as you saw one line written in the Shema, that's good enough. You're a good enough shliach. Rav Ashi Amar, even if you heard the scratching of the quill, or the scratching of the paper, that's good enough. In other words, you don't have to have been there for the whole thing. If it was taken out of the garbage can, that's no good, right? But as long as you heard the scribe writing something with the quill and the paper, the shuffling of the paper, that's good enough. Tanya Kavasa Ravashi, proof this, or maybe even if the shliach was downstairs and the sofa was upstairs, or vice versa, the sofa even if he was going in and out all day, we'll see what that means. Well, kosher, it's kosher. Why? Who would buy for sofa believe? But if he's downstairs and the sofa's upstairs, he didn't see the sofa writing. Elav could go in the shama kan komas of a he heard the scratching of the quill against the paper. That's good enough. Okay, so you see that's good enough. That's all he has to. He doesn't have to actually see it being written and watch the letters, etc. That's good enough to hear the scribe writing it. He knew this. He knew the scribe wrote it for this particular husband and wife. Amar Mar, I feel what do you mean if you went in and out all day kosher? Man, who we speak on? If the shliach went in and out all day, hashtu b'bayis for sofa baliyah. If he was downstairs and the sofa was upstairs, he didn't see him at all. Because that's kosher. Nichnas v'yosim boy. If he came in and out of the same room, for sure that's kosher. Even if you didn't see him at all, one was upstairs, one was there in different rooms. It's okay. Certainly, if he went in and out of the same room, it should be okay, boy. Ella sofa. We're talking about the sofa went in and out all day. It's like Marsa's cheating. Just because the sofa went out for a lunch break, back and forth, went out for a break, that should pass. What's the chiddush in that? So he went out to the marketplace. Boston came back. Might think in the marketplace he met a lot of people. Maybe somebody offered him more money for the same name and the same husband and wife name. They offered him more money and said, "Now do it for me." He told him, and now he's writing it for the other guy. And it's not Lishma. Kamashma, we don't go that far. We're not concerned about that. So therefore, the shliach doesn't have to see it being written. He can hear the scratch. He knows the sofa's there writing it. That's good enough. And even if the sofa went in and out all day, you're not concerned that it wasn't written Lishma. All right, we're at the 2 dots. We'll pick them here tomorrow. Chodesh Tov L'Kulam.